Hey everybody, this is Walter with Access Electric, and I am here today with Gerry McCaughey from Integra, and they have a unique business where they have I'm going to let him tell you the business model, but they build homes in a fraction of the amount of time that traditional house building can happen, and they allowed us to be in their factory to help them build their factory here in Modesto, California. And the process of watching that factory come to life and the things they do there totally surprised me on what can be done today in this day and age for what changes we can make in building homes and how much more efficient that can be. And so we asked Gerry to come over and to talk about his company, talk about what they're doing, and because we want you guys to know what's happening right here in Modesto, California. So, Gerry, glad you could join us today.
Thank you, Walter.
And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
I'm Gerry McCaughey. I'm the CEO of and one of the co-founders of Integra, which is what we call an offsite company, or the title, the trademark name we have is a fully integrated offsite solution, FIOSS. But pretty much what we're doing there is distinguishing ourselves from either stick framers or component manufacturers. We're really, I suppose, in many ways applying European offsite technology to the construction industry. So it's something that's, I suppose you'd say, it's relatively new in the US, and in some cases people say it's actually been around for a long time. I mean, and I hear both of those things. I hear people saying, "Oh, this is unusual. I've never seen it before," and I have to point out to them that my dad set up the first offsite business in Ireland back in the early 1960s. So that's how long it's been going on in my family and throughout Europe. Then I hear other people saying, "Oh, I've seen this before," and the reality is they haven't. What they're doing is comparing us with a component manufacturer, which is unfortunate from our perspective because it's a product that looks somewhat similar to what we do but doesn't deliver the same benefits. And then when it doesn't deliver the same benefits, people think that the offsite solution doesn't work. But there's a clear distinction in the European market between what a component manufacturer is and what a true offsite company is, and we are true offsite manufacturing company. Well, actually, we're more than that. We're design, engineering, and manufacturing company. So we basically make the building. We like to say is we bring building into the 21st century. We apply 21st century technology in the 21st century to the construction of homes, as opposed to when we look at stick framing. And I don't mean this disparagingly, but it's just a simple fact. It's really 18th century technology being applied in the 21st century to the most expensive product that a U.S. citizen's ever going to own.
So to clarify, when you say component manufacturing, that is maybe modular walls or
yeah, it generally refers to people who make walls. In California, it really refers to stud walls because they're not even sheeted or sheared. It's just a stud nailed to a top and bottom plate, and then they call that a wall panel. Well, I mean, that's not in our world. That's not a wall panel, and certainly in Europe, it's not a wall panel. It's a stud wall that really has no structural integrity in its own right. It's a pretty basic piece of kit for building a house, whereas ours is fully integrated. I mean, we're responsible for the floor, the roof, the walls. We're incorporating with the HVAC guys. We're pre-cutting the holes in the floor joists for the HVAC company. We're looking at the roots for the electrical and for the plumbing, and we're making sure, although we may not necessarily be drilling some of the holes, we're making sure we get clear roots and we take the obstacles and the clashes out of the building. So typically what it means is we can take an average 2,500 square foot house that's maybe taking anything currently from 15 to 20 days to get to roof level. We're able to get it through shear in 4. Now, when you take that onto multifamily buildings, then it gets dramatically different. So it's not a matter of us taking out 15 days out of the equation. We can be taking 2 and 3 months off the construction cycle time. But on top of that, I mean, it's more to than just the cycle time. There's obviously the quality of the building. I mean, we're using automation, and as you've seen, and you probably will see in the videos, we're using automation that's capable of making walls. Sorry, I'll put this in meters, and then I'll bring it back to the feet and inches. But walls that are up to 12 meters long, plus or minus 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters, which is 37.5 feet, plus or minus a 16th of an inch. It's simply not achievable on a building site. So you end up not alone with the house being built faster, but with the house or the building being built to such high tolerance levels that you simply can't be achieved on a building site. So you end up with a higher quality product. On top of that, we reduce the amount of waste on the site, so it's a much more sustainable product, and we require less labor. And actually, in this COVID-19 world, because we require such less labor and we use a lot of craneage on the site, it means we can keep our workers socially distant while they're working, which means we improve the safety on the site as well. So it has, and I could go on and on. I mean, it reduces dust, it reduces environmental, it reduces noise impact. It goes on and on the type of advantages that the system has. So that's what we're basically bringing construction into the 21st century.
So if I'm a builder and I have 5 or 6 house models that I want to build, and I come to you, what does that process look like? If I come to you and I say I want to build these homes and I want to use the FIOSS system, what is that process going to look like?
Well, that's where you start with. You come to us with your drawings, and you've obviously got 2 options. You can go out to a framer to get them stick framed, or you can come to us and say, I'd like to use your system to build these homes. And we will go through the process of pricing that job for the builder. If we're successful and we're awarded the contract, then starts a 8 to 10 week process with us going through our design and engineering process. So where we will literally strip that building right down to the last nail, and then we will rebuild it. We will actually say we create a digital twin of the building. So we have it built before it's ever built. We have a full 3D model, computerized, that we know every single nail that's in that building. We can tell you how many screws are in the building. We can tell you what volume of lumber is in that building. We can show you where the HVAC is going to go in the building. We literally have the twin. It's a digital twin, but nonetheless, it is that exact building that's going to get built on the building site. Because our analogy is a few hours on a computer screen is a hell of a lot less than a few hours on a building site.
Yeah.
In terms of cost. So we try to figure out the problems before it ever hits the building site. So it's a very, very intensive, modern, digitized, digital world that we work in. And then, once that's been figured out, and we will invariably come up with issues and problems that the architect and engineer have not seen. Like we have 50 engineers working in the company. That's their job to go through these buildings. And we will invariably always come up with these problems that wouldn't traditionally have been seen until they actually hit the building site. And then we have to go back to the client and his architect and engineer and say, what do you want to do about this? Now, we will make suggestions, although it's not really our job to do that, because we're not trying to influence how they want the building to look, but we were going back and saying that particular way you're doing that is not going to work, and here's the reason why. Now, here's particular options you can use to see how you want that rectified. And then once that's done, we will incorporate those changes into the drawing. And when it's all signed off and everything's finally done, then we produce a CAM file, a computer-aided manufacturing file, for every single component in that house, every element, right down to if it's a half-inch wide piece of blocking, we have a part number for that. And all of that information is then sent to multiple different CNC-controlled pieces of automation in our factory. The element will get precision cut to literally the millimeter and a part number applied to it. And then those pieces will be brought together and assembled in panel form, whether it's floors or walls or roof, for that particular building. So we have literally, when you see the trailers going out, all the elements for that house have all been accounted for and put on the trailer and have been assembled to the tightest levels of tolerances that you can imagine. And then we bring it to site. And it's on the site, then we'll typically take the period down on a relatively straightforward 2,500 square foot house from around 20 days down to 4 days.
Just being at the site yesterday, I appreciated watching some shear walls getting covered with OBS, and they were getting nailed. And I turned to Grant, who's filming this right now. I turned to him and said, "Look at that! The machine is holding that wall perfectly square while it's being shear nailed. You're not going to get that kind of quality."
No, and that machine's applying 75 tons of pressure.
Yeah. To
keep that wall square. Like it physically can't be done on a site. There's no possible way. But again, that's, as I was saying to you earlier on, I mean, that's like the analogy of if you think about every single product that's in this office or that you have in your home or you use in your business, every single one of those elements was manufactured in a factory. And there's a reason for it. Because we all know that we can produce higher quality, higher productivity, safer environment, and lower the costs. And I suppose the best true analogy that we use for that is if I said to you, if you go out this afternoon to buy yourself a new car and you walk into the dealer and you say, I want to buy a new Toyota or a new Mercedes or a new BMW or whatever it is, and the dealer says, okay, that's great. I'll give you two options. Option one is I get every single piece for that car, which can be done, by the way, because it's a part, shipped to your front yard. I have 5 guys come out in a pickup truck with some welding gear and pneumatic tools and put it together. Or I can have it made in Toyotas or BMWs or Mercedes factory. Which are you going to take?
Yeah, no question, the factory.
Yeah, you're going to take it to the factory every time. And then you ask the question, why? You don't even have to answer the question, but the next question is if you're going to take it out of the factory, why wouldn't you have your home done the same way? Because remember, the United States is pretty much unique in the Western world in building wood frame homes the way that it builds it. Because if you think about it, the only thing that's changed, if I say to you that if you went out of here now and you transport yourself back 200 years and you want to get into your mode of transport, you're going to go out there and get in a horse and buggy to go somewhere. And if I say to you about construction, go transport yourself back about 200 years, what difference will you have seen? A hard hat and a nail gun. That's how little US residential construction has progressed in 200 years. Yet, I mean, the iPhone is only 10 years old. Right, look at the flat screen TV that's on the room in front of the people, or the computer screen that people are watching now. That technology didn't even exist 30 years ago. Right? And yet, somehow, some way, people think that stick framing in 2020 is the current most modern way, and most advanced technological way to build a home. Now, it's not. And it hasn't been in most other developed nations in the world. I mean, it's like, to me as a European, it's a crazy scenario that I even have to explain this. That you think about everything else that we take for granted now today, and yet you're still trying to convince people that using CNC controlled automation in a factory is not a better way to build a home.
So what is the percentage in Europe, or let's say England? What's the percentage of this kind of framing?
Okay, so good question. So wood framing as a method of construction is not the most common necessarily in all countries. Right? So if you take it that, for example, in Ireland, wood framing accounts for about 40% of all new homes. In Scotland, it accounts for about 83%. In Scandinavia, it accounts for about 90%. In England, it accounts for about 20%. So it varies from country to country. However, the one thing that's common in all of those countries is it doesn't matter whether or not it's 20% in England or 40% in Ireland or 83% in Scotland or 90% in Sweden. 100% of those wood frame homes will be built in a factory. Asking a European, I make this joke actually about a European goes to a builder in the United States to get his new home built, and the builder says, "Oh, I'll stick frame that for you," and the European says to him, "You can't stick frame that where I'm from," and the U.S. builder says, "Where's that?" And the European says, "The 21st century." It's just, that's how crazy it sounds to a European. That you're basically going to say, no, I don't want any technology applied to the house. I really don't want any technology. Why would I do that? I mean, think about it, because that's what stick framing is saying. Stick framing is actually saying that all that CNC equipment, all that technology that we take for granted today does not apply to house framing. I mean, when you think about it, it's bananas. But yet that's how US residential construction has evolved. So we're here to try to change that.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the US has been stuck in stick framing and old technology for so long?
There's multiple different possibilities to answer that question. The one that I think is probably the most relevant is that in Europe, a lot of the forests got cut down during the Industrial Revolution. Right? So there was a lack of the raw material, meaning lumber. And then, however, so Europeans then in lots of cases switched to using concrete and aggregates and stone to build buildings because they simply didn't have the volume of raw material to build. So that became, for a long time, the common way to build homes. Whereas in the United States, I mean, it's only 250, 300 years old. We're coming up to Independence Day now. But when the first settlers came here, all they saw was just virgin forest. It was just forest everywhere. And to that extent, there is a lot of raw material in the US. It's above ground. You're not digging it out of the ground, which is a lot more expensive to do. And so an industry grew up that basically, as the West was won and people went west, every little town had a sawmill. Lumber was cut down because it was a forest close to them. There would have been families of framers built up, and an industry, very disparate industry built up. But what happened and they're all small little family institutions, so to speak. But what happened in Europe was wood framing really only started to come back into fashion after World War II. And what's significant about that is it's post-industrial revolution. So US wood framing is actually pre-industrial revolution, and European wood frame construction is post-industrial revolution. So a lot of the wood framing that started to really to get popular in Europe happened after World War II to rehouse the returning soldiers and to rebuild the homes that were destroyed during the bombing raids. So when Europe said we need to build a lot of houses very quickly, they said, okay, wood is now the way to do it. It's a friendly material to use, and the forests had started to grow again. They were being managed, and there was availability of lumber. But they just applied modern technology. It's okay, everything else is built in a factory. We're going to apply modern technology to the construction of those homes. So when the next wave, so you take it, is the second wave of wood frame construction started in Europe. It started post-World War II, post-industrial revolution, and modern technology was applied to it. So there wasn't a resistance to it. What you've had in the US is a pre-industrial revolution industry that built up that is highly resistant to change, does not want the change. Mm. They want things to remain the way they are because obviously it takes a lot of investment to try to build those factories, and so people want to try to keep it as a local as they can. And I understand that. That's not taking away. That's a quite legitimate position for people to take. What's not a legitimate position to take is to say that actually can build a home as efficiently, as quickly, to as high a quality or as safe as using modern technology. Mm. Then it's people's choice. Right. But I think the argument of saying that you can do it better, stick framing it, is just ludicrous. The factory is always going to be better quality, higher productivity, higher quality way to build.
Yeah. So as a comparison, if I want to build a house and I want to stick frame it, how long does that usually take to stick frame a house the traditional American way?
Well, I mean, we always base everything on around a 2,500 square foot house. So from the time you get your lumber drop and the guys come out on site, they're really at the moment it's taking, you get all the, see, you also have to factor this in. When you ask a stick framer how long it takes to frame a house, you're never going to get a true figure because they will always give you the best case scenario, right? The best case scenario meaning is that all of the lumber arrived on site at the time they were supposed to arrive, that there was no inclement weather conditions, and that all the men who were supposed to show up showed up, and nothing got forgotten about. So they'll tell you, oh, I can stick frame a house in 11, 12 days. Then you have to actually get them to say, well, how long did it actually take you on average? And then that figure goes out to 20 days, because there's always going to be the days when the guy doesn't show up, where somebody gets sick, where a piece of lumber, the floor joist didn't arrive. And so period of time, that's again one of the benefits of offsite construction as we do it, is it's very definitive. When our truck pulls up on the site on that day, that house is going up to the roof on that day, because everything that's required for that house is on that truck. We don't require, or nor are we waiting on anybody else to supply pieces to it. And the crane is going to do all the heavy lifting. So even if one guy doesn't show up, it really doesn't make any difference. The house is still going to go up.
So you have a crew of four people or so?
4 to 5 people typically is what it takes.
4 or 5 people in a crane.
And the house will be
2,500 square foot house
will be at plate level on day one.
On day one. But all the time took place ahead of time in the planning.
That is correct.
Stages.
That's correct. But that has no effect on the better state. Because here's also the thing that people don't fully understand the benefits of offsite construction. So they'll come along and somebody will say, oh, I can get a stick frame for, let's say, for the sake of argument, for $40,000. And they'll say, well, Integra's price is $42,000. And they go, well, you're more expensive. I'm going to go with the cheaper guy. But what you have to figure in here is, so let's just assume it. Even say assume it's $5,000 cheaper. Okay. Now you have to ask yourself, and actually I'll put this in context of a custom home owner. Okay, first of all. So just assume you're a custom home builder. You're a custom home owner. It's your home. So you're building your dream home. Now you go out, you've sold your existing home to get the money to buy the land and to have the construction money to build to down payment to get the house built. So you then still have to take out a construction loan. The construction loan is obviously paying a rate of interest that's much higher than the mortgage when you get it converted over, when you convert your construction loan to your mortgage. So during the period of time that you're waiting for your house to be stick frame, now, because when I said on a 2,500 square foot, that's for a production home builder. On custom homes, just assume that the home was, and I'll give you an example, the house was built right beside my house in California. It took them 3 months to frame the house. Now, we would have framed that particular house in probably 5 days. It took 3 months. That's 3 months that homeowner was paying for rent on a building that their family was in, plus 3 months of interest on the construction loan that they were paying during that period of time before they got it converted. So when you add that into the equation, it probably, depending on the market you're in, if you live in Southern California and the coastal regions, you could have been looking anywhere at up to those 3 months between rent and construction loan. You could have been looking at $40,000 to $60,000 in difference. We were $5,000 more expensive, yet we have a higher quality product. But in reality, is we were much cheaper. Now, when you bring that to production home builders, and let's just take the Bay Area. So if you take the Bay Area, what they call the cost of cycle time every day on site can amount for between $1,000 and $2,000 per day. So if we take 15 days off the cycle time, there's $15,000 that goes straight to the builder's bottom line. And what people don't figure out is, remember, your bank doesn't go on vacation on Saturday and Sunday, right? It's still paying you, it's still charging you the rent, the interest on the Saturday and Sunday. So if we start on a Monday and we finish on a Friday, but you're done. If a framer says he's taking 15 days, he's not taking 15 days. He's got 3 weekends in there as well. And you got to pay for that too. But these are the realities, things that how people spin stories, never to tell the full facts about what's going on. Time is money. Absolutely. That's the one thing every single business person understands. Time is money, and the bank doesn't stop on Saturday and Sunday. You're still paying. So no matter how you do the calculation on ours, we're still always going to make the builder more money by using our system.
Gerry, transitioning a little bit. Let me ask you, why did you choose Modesto for your U.S. headquarters?
Well, as it turned out, when we decided where we were going to put our first factory in the U.S., we looked all over all 50 states, and we did a lot of research. We spent probably 2.5 years researching the market. It became clear to us that California was the optimum market to go after, primarily because that's where the labor situation was the toughest and where the on-site labor costs were the highest. And so we said, okay, that's where our system brings its maximum efficiency. So once we identified California, then the next thing became, well, where in California? And as we all know, anybody who lives in California knows California is really 2 states. You have Northern California and Southern California. They don't really like each other, to tell you the truth. So it became then, okay, where do we go then? If we're going to divide this into North and South, where do we go? So again, we looked at that and said, okay, Northern California, because I actually live in Southern California, but we decided that Northern California was the optimum place to start a factory because that's where, again, the labor issue was the most critical. And so it's somewhat simple then after that in reality. So you say, okay, I need to put a factory in Southern California eventually, but I need to put a factory in Northern California now. Where do I put it? Well, we also know from 30 years experience doing this that really our distance from the factory that we can go is somewhere about 200 to 250 miles maximum radius. So when you look at Northern California, so if you take a line and say, okay, take a line from Fresno across and say, okay, there's the top half of the state. We need to be able to hit all the major construction markets in Northern California within a 250 mile radius. It became very clear that the Central Valley was the optimum place to go to. So then after that, it was, okay, which location do we go to? We originally started with a small factory, which was just demo our product in the market and see what reaction we get in Ripon, which is only 10 miles away from Modesto. And then when we raised then $45 million from Louisiana Pacific to build the big automated factory that we now have, it became, where do we put that? And so it was a matter then of, look, we knew it had to be in this area. So where would we go to? And I mean, obviously Modesto with its infrastructure, and to be honest, with the help of the city, and with to be honest, with the G3, which is part of the Gallo Group, we got such help and encouragement to actually do it. We said, okay, this is where we're going to put it. And I have to say, and I'm honestly say this, best decision we ever made. I mean, I would say this to anybody looking at this area. This is an incredible pro-business friendly place to locate any business. So we're delighted with our choice.
That's great. That's great to hear too, because you see our country kind of moving anti-business. So it's nice to know that at least this area.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, they have been. I have to say now, it has been a pleasure, and people here have been, and we have been very lucky with I suppose the people that we picked to build our factory, including yourselves. But I mean, the people who have helped us now have been, they've known what they were doing. They were very professional. They were very switched on. They did everything the way they said they were going to do it. It has been a great experience. It really has been. So we're absolutely delighted with it.
Fantastic. I really appreciate the frankness, the openness to discuss these things. I know you've talked about them a lot because this is your life, but it's maybe things that somebody that's not in this industry would think about all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's really an eye opener. Factory's beautiful. I thank you so much that you selected us. I know your options were open to select anybody you wanted, and we appreciate the work you've given us, and I hope you're happy with that.
No, we are. I mean, as I said, we do our due diligence too on who we bring in to do the work for us, and so we'd obviously done our due diligence on Access, and everything that we had heard was good, and that has actually proven to be the truth. So we're delighted. So no, thank you very much for it. I mean, at the end of the day, this is so true. I mean, you have to work in an environment where little business people around you are helping you. It's the other expression says it takes the village.
Yeah.
Well, it does in terms of business too. I mean, because all of us in business all rely on each other at some point in time along the way, and it can be for the strangest reason. So it's just great to know that there's people around you and in this environment and this city that are actually so willing to get involved. I mean, I genuinely mean this. I mean, it's at times, I know, because we have a lot of Irish guys working for us. People have said to us, well, you know, what's it like? I said, every one of our Irish guys would actually say they've been welcomed with open arms. I mean, that has made a big difference as well, because we had to bring a lot of people over from Ireland to train the people here. I mean, our guys that are from Ireland, I mean, have 20 plus years doing this, and they've moved over here, and some of them moved their families here. And just to get the reaction that they got, they've never at any time felt anything except welcomed. That's an incredible thing in itself. It makes it so much easier. I mean, if I were bringing guys over and they were feeling uncomfortable or they were feeling unwelcome, it would be a different story. But these guys are welcomed into the community, both the regular community and the business community. And I mean, that's a real I think, again, endorsement of the type of atmosphere that there is in the business community here.
That's fantastic to hear. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. So anyway, thank you so much for letting us participate in your endeavors here, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you very much.
I hope for exponential growth, and I know that's what you guys are looking for.
We're planning on it anyway. So
as it sketches on, and more builders decide to.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last thing I'll say, but I mean, we started a factory in Ireland in 1990 out of a 5,000 square foot building with 5 people, and in 15 years we were the largest offsite company in Europe. And we had 5 factories, and we had nearly 800 people employed, and we were exporting as far away as Japan. So I see the opportunity here as being exponential to that.
Yeah.
So I think there's an exciting period ahead here.
Thank everybody for watching, and I hope you learned something today, and appreciate Gerry coming over and talking to us today and telling us all about his factory and his plans and the FIOSS process and how that works. and how that can benefit the productivity of home building here in the United States. So thank you for watching, and until the next time, have a good day.